Back in 1792, the US government passed a law that made it a crime punishable by death for any official at the US Mint to fraudulently devalue the nation's money. Fast forward to today, and the value of our money is diluted almost constantly. Only now, it's called monetary policy. This one forgotten law doesn't just explain why your savings seem to buy less each year. It contains the core principles for protecting your portfolio from the very chaos they've created. But before I reveal the 5 lessons from that 200-year-old law, we have to confront the brutal truth of the modern problem. That quiet, gnawing stress you feel every time you check out at the grocery store. And the terrifying, unspoken reason why the entire system is now built on sand. Crimson. Watch. You feel it, don't you? It's not a loud, obvious crisis. It's a quiet, creeping, grinding stress that settles in your chest every time you check out at the grocery store. Every time you fill up your car. Every time you open a utility bill and wonder how it's 30% higher than last year. It's that exhausting, sinking feeling that no matter how hard you work, no matter how much you save, you are trapped on a financial treadmill, and some invisible hand just keeps cranking up the speed. You get a 5% raise at work, but your rent and food costs go up 10%. You dutifully put money into your 401k, only to watch it get vaporized overnight by a correction caused by a single press conference from a man in a suit you've never met and will never vote for. You watch the stock market lurch from one crisis to the next, a chaotic casino driven by panicked headlines, algorithms you can't see, and backroom decisions you will never be a part of. You are doing everything right, everything they told you to do, and you are still falling behind. This is the brutal truth of the modern problem. The value of your money, the very foundation of your financial life, the unit you trade your time and life for, feels like it's built on sand. And you are not wrong. It is. The brutal truth is that the system today is not just broken. It is practically designed for your wealth to slowly, quietly, and systematically bleed away. This isn't an accident. This is not incompetence. It is a feature, not a bug, of modern money. It is a hidden, silent tax that punishes savers and rewards debtors. It's an invisible machine that transfers wealth from the Main Street economy of paychecks and savings accounts directly to the Wall Street economy of abstract assets and endless debt. This is the real source of your anxiety. It's the feeling of playing a rigged game, one where the rulebook has been stolen and rewritten to guarantee you can never actually win. But what if I told you the founders of America saw this coming? What if I told you they knew this exact betrayal was possible? That a system built on promises instead of substance would lead to this exact grinding theft?
I can't believe the price
They didn't.
of this.
Just warn against it. They created a legal defense against it. A blueprint. A forgotten law. That, once you understand it, reveals the exact principles for how to protect yourself. Before going to the next part, which will elaborate the fortress of sound money, make sure you've subscribed to this YouTube channel. That blueprint, that legal fortress against the very theft you're experiencing today, was the Coinage Act of 1792. To understand this law, you have to understand the trauma that birthed it. The founders had just survived the Revolutionary War, a war financed by printing a paper currency called the Continental. This was America's first experiment with money backed by nothing but a government's promise. And it was a complete, horrifying disaster. This paper money collapsed so spectacularly, so completely, that its value evaporated to zero, wiping out the savings of an entire generation. It became a national joke. To say something was worthless, people coined the phrase, "not worth a continental." This financial firestorm was seared into the minds of men like George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and Alexander Hamilton. They knew, with absolute certainty, that a nation built on fake money was a nation built on sand. They knew that giving politicians the power to print wealth from thin air was a power that would always be abused and would always end in the ruin of its citizens. So, they didn't just suggest a solution. They forged one in iron. The Coinage Act of 1792 did three crucial, revolutionary things. First, it established the U.S. Mint, the only entity legally allowed to create the nation's money. Second, and this is the glitch, this is the part that has been stolen from you. It legally defined what a dollar was. A dollar was not just a piece of paper. It was not a political promise. It was not an abstract idea. A dollar was, by law, a specific weight of precious metal, 371.25 grains of pure silver. It also authorized gold coins, like the $10 eagle, fixing the value ratio between silver and gold at 15:1. This was the bimetallic standard. Money wasn't a concept. It was a thing. It was a commodity. It had real, tangible, intrinsic value that a politician couldn't just print into oblivion. It was an anchor. And third, the part that shows just how serious they were. Section 19 of the Act laid out the punishment for any mint official, any government employee, who debased the currency by fraudulently, sneakily, using less gold or silver in the coins than the law demanded. The punishment wasn't a fine. It wasn't a slap on the wrist. It wasn't early retirement with a full pension. The punishment was death. Think about that. The founders of this country considered the deliberate devaluation of your money, the very monetary policy that happens every single day now, a crime so destructive, so evil, and so profoundly corrosive to society that it was put on par with treason. They saw it, correctly, as the ultimate silent theft from every single citizen. This was the fortress they built to protect you. A system defined by weight, not by whim. A system protected by the death penalty. It was designed to last forever. And for 150 years, it largely did. But a system built on discipline is a cage for those who crave power. And that cage was about to be systematically, deliberately, and brutally taken apart in what can only be described as the greatest financial betrayal of the 20th century. Make sure you've liked this video. For decades, that fortress held. The death penalty clause was a powerful deterrent, and the metallic standard, while not perfect, provided a stable, predictable framework. But a system built on discipline is, and will always be, a cage for those who crave power. And throughout the 20th century, a series of catastrophic events gave power-hungry politicians the excuses they needed to systematically dismantle that cage, piece by piece, in what amounted to the greatest financial betrayal in history. The first cracks were small, appearing in the bimetallic standard itself. The fixed 15:1 ratio of silver to gold couldn't always keep up with the real market prices, which fluctuated. This created the system's first glitch. Savvy traders would hoard the more valuable metal, whichever one was undervalued by the government's fixed rate, and spend the other. This was an early sign that you can't fully override market reality. But this small glitch was nothing compared to the real betrayal, which began during the Great Depression. The government was desperate. They claimed the gold standard. The very discipline that created stability was now a rigid straitjacket, preventing them from fixing the economy. They needed to print money. They needed to devalue the currency. The law was in their way, so they simply broke it. In 1933, President Franklin D. Roosevelt signed Executive Order 6102. This was not a minor policy change. It was a confiscation. It made it illegal for ordinary American citizens to own gold coins or bullion, forcing them to turn in their real money, their property, to the government in exchange for paper dollars. The anchor was stolen from the people. But the final, killing blow, the ultimate act of betrayal, came on August 15, 1971. President Richard Nixon, facing a crisis where foreign countries were redeeming their US dollars for gold and rapidly draining America's reserves, went on national television. He looked the world in the eye and announced he was temporarily closing the gold window. That temporary measure is now 54 years old. In that one speech, Nixon severed the last remaining link between the US dollar and gold. The dollar was no longer backed by anything tangible. It was now a pure fiat currency, a Latin word for "let it be so." It was money backed by nothing but faith in the very government that had just broken its golden promise. The crime punishable by death in 1792 just become official, permanent presidential policy. And so the Great Betrayal was complete. The fortress was in ruins. The anchor was cut, leaving the US dollar and your entire financial life totally unchained from reality for the first time in human history. So what happens in a world with no rules? What are the real, tangible consequences of a system where money can be printed from thin air? You don't have to guess, because you are living them right now. So what happens in a world with no rules? What are the real consequences of a system where the death penalty for debasement has been replaced with praise for quantitative easing? You don't have to guess. You are living them. You are the unwilling test subject in the largest, most chaotic monetary experiment in human history. With the gold anchor gone, there is no limit, no discipline, no consequence for how much new currency can be created. When a crisis hits, the 2008 banking collapse, the 2020 pandemic, or the next crisis that's always just around the corner, the only tool the government has left is the print button. They must flood the system with trillions of new, unbacked fiat dollars to save the economy. But this is the simple, brutal, inescapable economic fact they pray you ignore. When the supply of anything goes up, the value of each individual unit must go down. And that is the brutal truth. That is the silent theft. This isn't always the sharp 10% inflation you read about in the headlines. That's the loud theft, the one they have to admit. The real danger, the one that does the most damage, is the quiet theft. The monetary policy that targets just 2% inflation. 2% sounds harmless, doesn't it? It's designed to. It's the boil the frog strategy. That safe 2% inflation is just a slow, generational default on their $38 trillion debt, a default they are forcing you to pay for. Since 1971, the US dollar has lost well over 90% of its purchasing power. That $100 bill your grandfather saved under the mattress is now worth less than $10 in real terms. This is why you feel like you're on a treadmill. This is why you feel like you can't get ahead. Your savings account is not a safe haven. It is a melting ice cube. The cash you hold in the bank is not a risk-free asset. It is a guaranteed losing position. This system punishes the saver and rewards the debtor.
This is Jean. How can I help
It creates the violent boom and bust cycles that whip our markets around. And worst of all, it funnels this stolen wealth by design to those closest to the money printer, the government, the big banks, the financial elite, who get to spend the new money first, before it circulates through the economy and evaporates your purchasing power. This is the vulnerable, chaotic, rigged system we are all forced to play in. This system is designed to bleed you dry. It's a trap. But you do not have to be its victim. The same Coinage Act that diagnosed this disease, the same timeless principles the founders used to build that fortress, they also provide the exact blueprint for how to fight back. They give us the 5 specific lessons you need to shield your portfolio. And it starts with rejecting their fake money and building your own. Close quote.
Welcome to Main Street.
This system is a trap by design, but you do not have to be its victim. The same Coinage Act that diagnosed this disease, the same timeless principles the founders used to build that fortress, they also provide the exact blueprint for how to fight back. They give us the 5 specific lessons you need to forge your own financial fortress in the middle of this modern chaos. Lesson number 1. Build your own hard asset backing. This is the single most important principle. The 1792 Act declared that money was something real, a specific, defined weight of silver. Your portfolio must have the same foundation. In a world of fake, paper, fiat money, you have to create your own personal gold standard. This means a strategic allocation to physical precious metals, primarily gold and silver. This is not a get-rich gamble. This is not an investment in the same way a stock is. It is insurance. It is your portfolio's ultimate, non-negotiable insurance policy against the certainty of currency debasement. Gold is the only financial asset on Earth that is not simultaneously someone else's liability. It cannot be printed into oblivion by a central banker. It cannot be bankrupted by a bad CEO. It is a timeless, 5,000-year-old store of value that will be standing long after the US dollar is just a historical footnote, just like the Continental it replaced. Lesson number 2. Diversify your foundation bimetallic style. The founders were smart. They didn't just pick one metal, they chose 2. The bimetallic standard of gold and silver was a deliberate diversification at the very base of the currency. Gold was the ultimate anchor of stability, the asset of kings and central banks. Silver was the people's money, the metal of liquidity and daily commerce. You must apply this exact logic. Don't just buy gold, own silver as well. The gold-to-silver ratio is a constantly shifting glitch in its own right, and owning both diversifies your hard asset insurance, giving you a far more robust and resilient foundation. Lesson number 3. Stick to a stable and transparent framework. The Coinage Act was brilliant because it was predictable. It created a rules-based system where everyone knew what a dollar was worth. That transparency builds trust and destroys the very systemic risk that can wipe out a portfolio overnight. Our modern system is the opposite. It is opaque, complex, and based on the secret, backroom whims of the Federal Reserve. Your strategy, therefore, must be to favor assets that operate with clear rules. This means prioritizing stability and clarity. Think blue-chip, dividend-paying stocks in established, essential industries over murky, speculative gambles built on nothing but hype. You want businesses with real profits, real cash flow, and real, transparent accounting. You reduce your exposure to their chaos by building your wealth on proven, understandable models. Lesson 4. Financially penalize the debased asset. The 1792 Act treated currency debasement as a crime worthy of death. Today, it's called monetary policy, and they give themselves awards for it. Since you cannot put the system on trial, you must pass judgment with your portfolio. How? By treating excess cash as the toxic, debased asset it is. Every dollar you hold in a bank account beyond your 3 to 6 month emergency fund is not safe. You are consenting to the theft. You are choosing to let your wealth be debased. The only way to enforce this principle is to get your capital out of the debased asset, cash, and into the non-debasable assets from Lesson 1, gold, silver, and the productive assets from Lesson 3, stocks, real estate. You become your own enforcer. Lesson 5. Learn to spot the system's glitches. The original bimetallic standard had a glitch, that 15-to-1 ratio that savvy traders could exploit. Well, our modern fiat system is not just a system with a few glitches. It is one giant, chaotic, distortion-filled glitch. Central banks, by their very nature, create massive volatility. Fear, greed, and algorithms drive prices far away from their real value all the time. For the average dumb money investor, this volatility is terrifying. For you, it is the single greatest opportunity. It means you can buy real, tangible value, a solid, cash-flowing business or a hard asset, when the panicked herd is forced to sell it for a stupid reason. The lesson is to see their chaos not as a threat, but as your entry signal. These are the 5 principles. This is the blueprint from 1792, retrofitted for the 21st century. It is the plan for how you take back control, reject their system, and build your own fortress. You now know more than 99% of investors. But here's the brutal truth. Knowing this plan is not enough. You have a choice. You can be the person who knows the blueprint, or you can be the person who uses it. And that choice, that one single decision, is the only thing that will determine your financial sovereignty. The founders of America understood a timeless, brutal truth. Money is built on trust. When that trust is broken, when the crime of debasement becomes policy, the very foundations of a society begin to crack. You are living on those cracking foundations right now. The founders created the Coinage Act of 1792 as a legal fortress, a defense against this exact decay, a blueprint for sound money and real, tangible stability. That blueprint has been cast aside, shredded, and intentionally forgotten by our modern leaders, who benefit from the chaos of the fiat system they created. But its wisdom, its raw power, is more relevant today in this world of $38 trillion debts and constant inflation than it has ever been in human history. You cannot change their broken system overnight. You cannot stop them from hitting the print button, but you do not have to be their victim. You now have the dollar glitch. You have the blueprint. You have the 5 timeless lessons. And that means you have a choice. You can choose to stop playing their rigged game. By applying these 5 principles, you can stop being the melting ice cube. You can stop being the exit liquidity. And you can start building your own fortress. You can build a portfolio on a foundation of timeless principles, not political promises. You can take back control. You can take the real, tangible steps to protect your family, your future, and your financial sovereignty. If you are ready to reject their system, and you want to keep uncovering the forgotten glitches and lost history of money to secure your future, your first step is simple. Subscribe to this channel and click that notification bell. And let me know in the comments right now, which of these 5 timeless principles do you think is the most critical for investors today? Stay safe and stay sovereign.